on this computer. Welcome to Brain Potential Insights. I'm Jan Skye, and this morning I have a really special guest with me. His name is John Macy from Sydney. Before I formally introduce you to John, I'd really like to read his bio because it is so impressive. John Macy is a globally recognized thought leader in HR technology and has been in the industry for the last 2 decades. He founded Competitive Edge Technology in 1994. He was awarded a life fellowship with the Australian HR Institute in 2013 and inducted into ARI's Hall of Fame in 2020. He is a member of ARI's Technology Advisory Panel, a member of the ISO Standards Committee for Blockchain, and was a member of a working group developing Australia's blockchain roadmaps. As a HR consultant specializing in technology, he has worked throughout Asia and China and spent several years working in America. He has written several books on HR technology and contributed to numerous publications over many years. His extensive HR experience was gained working in Qantas Airlines in senior HR positions. Welcome, John, to this morning.
Well, thanks, Jan. It's a very topical subject right now, the ageing workforce. And I suppose since we're just talking as friends between you and me and the 5,000 others that are listening, we can be a bit open. And the last 2 decades in technology is really just the latest version of technology. And I can confess that I was there in technology when it all started. So I started my career in 1964. So in actual fact, we didn't have technology then. So I've been lucky enough, you might say, to be there at the birth and then watched every generation coming through.
Yes. And John, I can remember when I left school and my uncle said to me, you need to get into computers. They're the in thing. They're coming. And I went, computers? Oh, I don't think so. So it was probably around a similar time to you. And yes, you're right. That's what we're talking about today. Our topic is the aging workforce in relation to technology. So please continue, John.
Yeah. No, well, in the early days, it was quite boring, computers, because it was all about bits and bytes, and we'd have punch cards and you'd fill in transcripts. You didn't actually get your hands on computers until much later. And that's when I really started to get interested, because from an HR perspective, when you were doing things like remuneration advice, all of a sudden you had a laptop computer that you could then put spreadsheets on, you could calculate what-if scenarios, and you could do so many things that would take you ages before. So that's where I really got interested. And the beauty is, too, that every generation is different. So anyone that came in 20 years ago would virtually be coming into a whole new ball game. And now when we have a look at the way forward, we're looking at changes to the World Wide Web. We're looking at a new internet underpinning this, and we're looking at blockchain, which is peer-to-peer. Instead of these huge data centers, we're looking at distributed computing, and anyone who has missed virtually the last couple of years, or while they've been doing a different occupation, there's nothing stopping them now coming in, studying and looking at this next generation and being part of that.
Yes, you're absolutely right, John. And I think when it comes to people talking about the aging workforce, just because we may be of a more senior age doesn't mean we don't have the capacity to go and learn new things. And in fact, the more we stimulate our brain, stimulate the neurons that fire electrical currents down those pathways, the healthier our brain is, because the brain likes to learn.
Well, that's exactly right, Jan. And the concern is, you think, well, at what point do I give it away? And you say, well, when I start to forget things or something like that, I want some sort of form of measurement. And just as you have forms of measurement for your body, the physical measurement to know if there's any deterioration in your heart condition or that, you can have a set pattern that you follow. And if you walk the same distance, we've spoken about walking and that before off air, you can then say, well, if I come back and I'm a little bit puffed out, something's wrong. And if this gets worse, you say, well, I better get a medical check to see if my heart needs attention or something like that. But with the brain, it's hard to get something that's consistent. Like if you do a jigsaw puzzle or you do a crossword puzzle, they're always different. So you can't say, well, that took me 10 minutes to do, because sometimes the questions were more complex. And that's where I thought, well, one way to do this is to take something that's portable, consistent, and that's when I got involved with the Rubik's Cube.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there was a movie with Will Smith, and this inspired me. And he was going for a job, and he was sitting in the back of the taxi with the fellow that was virtually going to interview him, and he was fiddling with his Rubik's Cube. And I could relate to this because I'd seen a Rubik's Cube before, and I'd tried, and I thought, this is impossible. And that's what the guy was saying. It's impossible. So I watched videos, and I thought, there's got to be a solution to this. And so the more I practiced it, and then I thought, like every other problem in life, if you break it down to the smallest components, you can then start to assemble it. And that's what I did. So all of the rotations and so forth. And when you've done this, you think, gee, I'm clever, and then you want to share that. And we were at a friend's birthday party in Anzac Day last year, and there's his little kid playing with his Rubik's Cube, and I said to him, do you want me to show you how to do that? And he was impressed. This is probably something he'll remember for the rest of his life. And he probably thought that I was working it out at the time. But it's a methodology that you've got to follow. And so I thought I'll document this, and I'll share it with people of my own generation so that they can then know when they start to do the Rubik's Cube, if they're doing it regularly and it takes them 5 minutes, then if it starts to take them 10 minutes, they know there's some problem. And this is...
I can see what you're getting at, yes.
So if you do it regularly, and it becomes muscle memory, and so you say, that's something I can do while I'm booting up the computer or before I start work for the day or something like that. And that's a good indication that everything's good, If you want to then take that to the work situation, if you go and apply for a job like Will Smith did, there is an opportunity to be able to happen to find a Rubik's Cube in your bag or in your pocket or something. And you can use that for assessment of mental capability, but you can also use it for self-esteem at home.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if I can just jump in there, because you've said some really valuable things there, just going back to the little boy that you showed that to, because you showed him the once, he would probably remember it more quickly than it took an aging brain to remember it. So he's going to be an expert at that far more quickly than perhaps it took you to be the expert at it, because of neuroplasticity in the young brain. And we still have neuroplasticity in the aging brain. It's just that, unlike you, a lot of people don't want to use it. But you've worked out a methodology, and I love what you said, because it is a measurement, isn't it? If it takes me 10 minutes today, and then I'm improving with the length of time, I know I'm firing new pathways in my brain. But there was something else you said, and that's that sense of self. That's also creating the happiness chemicals in our brain, like dopamine, for example, because it's a reward, and we need to create those chemicals in our brain. So it's doing wonderful things through our memory in our brain, neuroplasticity, firing of neural pathways, and also the creation of chemicals, brain chemicals. Keep
Yeah.
going, John. This is so interesting.
Well, I just relate it to if someone decides they'll learn how to dance, you have to remember steps and so forth. It's not much different because all you're remembering is rotations or algorithms, as they call them. And there's only 4 to memorize, and then you apply those at different stages. So it's no different to learning to dance or a foreign language. If you go right, up, down, left, and whatever, your muscle kick in, and you don't even have to think about it when you come to do it. But you get to a certain point, you say, "Oh, I did something wrong there." Then you start to think, "Oh, well, I can reverse that out," and then you just rethink it. So it's not like you're doing it subconsciously. You aren't thinking about it, but because you've done it so many times, you know what the routine is.
Yes. And in relation to technology, we could apply the same principles for the mature brain in terms of what you're applying to the Rubik's Cube. So if you want to learn a new thing, like, for example, using Zoom, or like, for example, even if people haven't added emails to their program or learning a new program, it's about the constant application of it. Isn't that right?
That's exactly right, Jan. And when you look at a lot of systems now, enterprise systems, they were built by a company to sell as a package. And they're big monolithic systems. And that's not the way HR works, because every company does performance management, remuneration management, payroll. Everyone does it a bit differently. So 20 years ago, I decided, the best architecture was plug and play. So that's taking the different components and putting them together in a proper structured way. And then if the business changes, you simply change the component. And that's the way that the technology has now matured. We're talking about composability. We're talking about building your own systems. And it was only a matter of time before this was recognised. But to do that, you need standards to plug in and all of that sort of stuff. But it's the future of technology. And as we look at, now the way Facebook is breaking up, they're going down they're called Meta now, they're going down that pathway of this new internet, the peer-to-peer architecture. So comes back to the same principles as the Rubik's Cube, taking that structured approach, doing it a layer at a time, because you're not going to get it all in one go. You have to do the first layer, the second layer, then the third layer. And it does, while you're learning it and you're understanding the rotations, it is the creative juices kick in. You think, what if I fiddle this a little bit, and then you find, well, that doesn't work because you've disturbed the top layer while you're trying to do the second layer.
Yes, and you told me if you start focus on the white square, make that the central point at the top, and whatever the color of a matching one on the bottom. So white, you get the white, and then you have to keep, because the center doesn't change, does it?
That's
white
right, exactly.
In the top, whatever the color, if it's yellow or green at the bottom, that center one, and so you're looking to make that all green and the top all white.
That's exactly right. You start at top and you hold the cube consistently in the same position, so you don't sort of roll around. So you hold it there, and then you say, well, those spines, the centerpieces, they don't change. It's the corner and the edges. And so what you've got to do then is you've got to spin those according to, the set rotation to put them into a place. And as you sort of move down, you start with a cross at the top. You do the first and second layer, then you turn it upside down and start with a cross at the bottom. And then by doing the rotations, every time you disturb the other two layers, they're restored. You can do the restoration. And you get a real buzz out of it when it's finished.
Yes.
Jeez, look at I've done.
I've done my Rubik's Cube, and I'm determined to complete it today, John. Thank you. Something you said that might be a good note to finish on. You said about technology today and how it has the foundation is there, but it's understanding it and then building on it. And I was thinking about us as humans. If we understand who we are, we've got self-awareness, but on top of that, we've got the capacity and the willingness to change. We can integrate new things into our life, just like the computer system is doing.
Your mind needs that stimulation, especially if you're used to doing something in your previous work life or whatever. If you're suddenly given a new challenge, and that it gives you a whole new outlook, a new perspective. So I just think that when people now look at technology and they think, oh no, that's too difficult. Now it's not. You know, it's simple, it's basic, and it's fun to learn.
Yes.
And the other thing too, Jan, is when you get older, you've got more time to Google and research, and there's so much material out there that you can learn from people that have written articles, from conferences and all that. Whereas if people are working 9 to 5, they don't have that luxury. So there are advantages in getting older.
Thanks, John, and I value that as well. Absolutely do. It's been wonderful speaking with you this morning, and I thank you very much for being on Brain Potential Insights. And perhaps we can have another chat down the track. See, I nearly forgot my words then. Thanks so much, John Macy. And we'll put your details are up on the screen. So if anyone needs to contact you, they can. Thank you indeed.
Terrific. It's been a pleasure, Jan. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.